Hi everyone.
Hello.
This is Dani and Paula again.
I'm Paula Overby, candidate for U.S. Senate.
Dani Austin, local Minnesota artist.
We're here to talk about what's going on in Portland.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with what's going on in
To be
Portland?
honest, I'm not familiar, so it's going to be a learning experience for both of us, I'm sure.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I'm not real clear on what's going on out in Portland either.
Yeah.
There's a number of different stories. The dominant story seems to be that the federal government has said in federal troops of kind of unclear identity. It's not sure. Some people are saying that it's Border Patrol. The more conspiracy-oriented people are saying it's really a special mercenary force. Whatever, they're going into these protests and they're picking up people in these unmarked vans and they're taking them away.
Okay.
That's pretty much as I know about it, which is
really?
all virtually
Okay.
rumor.
Where have you
as
been
much as
seeing
anything.
this article? Is it just like on
I'm
Facebook or is that
hearing
major?
Yeah, I'm seeing it on Twitter, on Facebook. I'm hearing some reports on NPR.
I mean,
on radio,
I have been keeping up with the Portland protests.
Okay.
I know it's getting pretty heated over there. So, but the moms,
Oh, so you have heard about the moms?
the wall of moms.
The wall of moms. Yes.
So what is their what are they bringing to the table? Is it
Well, they have come out and they've locked arms and formed this wall in front of the protesters, presumably protecting the protesters from this invasion of police. Right? And I suppose it's not just these federal agents that are coming in picking people out of the crowd, but the police themselves. Same types of, I'm assuming, same types of some of the violence that we saw here in Minneapolis, right?
so that brings into the conversation motherhood, like
Yeah.
okay.
And I mean, that's one of the slogans, of course, is that was one of the things George Floyd said when he was suffocating to death, is call for his mama, right?
Oh yeah.
And so the moms are making an issue of that, and it's becoming almost a rally cry, I guess, right? With the moms protecting the protesters. Then I guess one night the dads came out, right, with the leaf blowers, and I didn't get the whole leaf blower thing. It's like until I read this little story.
I guess
online.
the leaf blower is a very like dad tool.
It's
suppose.
a dad tool, yes. Not to get too gender specific here, but
Yeah.
but apparently, I mean, it didn't make sense to me when I first heard this story.
But what were they
But it
using?
does-
Were they using it or were they?
They
Just
were
carrying-
using them. They were using them to blow away the tear gas, right?
Oh, that makes sense. In that case, that's smart.
Yeah. So, it's so I have not been following the story very closely. Obviously, I'm making that pretty obvious. But I have for a long time followed the process that's going on around militarization of our society and our police. You probably know that I'm very much an anti-war
Yeah, one of
advocate. That's
one of the main issues in your campaign.
Definitely probably my strongest issue in the campaign is to reduce military spending and convert it and transition to more social investment. But that, beyond the ridiculous amounts of money that we spend on war and foreign intervention, is the amount of money that we invest in militarizing our police, right? So this, you're probably not aware of this. Very few people are. I talk about it occasionally. It's the 1033 program. Have you ever heard of that?
No, what is that?
That's a program by the federal government where they provide surplus military hardware. These tanks you see rolling down local streets. You don't see it, but maybe on social media
Yeah.
you've seen it. They have them here in Minneapolis.
Why is it called 1033?
I don't know where that name comes from. That's a good question. I'll have to look that up.
Is that
probably,
the number of the tank? Like,
Is that
is that code
maybe?
for tank?
Goodness sakes, I'll have to look that up if there's why it's called 1033. But it does, it provides military surplus.
Okay.
And I mean, that's part of the imagery that we're seeing. People are, I heard it today, I've heard it a couple of times actually on social media. People are talking about this like, it looks like urban warfare, right? Because these
well, civil war is kind of what I keep hearing about.
And that's, the extreme side of that argument is that this is the beginning of our civil war. Right?
Do you believe that?
No, it's not that serious.
No, I don't believe it either.
In part because these are really peaceful protests, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are not the Second Amendment gun rights people that are coming out and actually shooting people.
Yeah.
Like they keep claiming they're going to.
But sometimes it does take a turn towards being pretty violent and getting really intense the protests.
I mean, these protests have been going on now for almost 2 months now, right? It is very intense. But of course, historically, I think back to the 60s and 70s and the war protests and the how violent some of that got. I mean, I remember National Guardsmen killing students on college campuses.
So is it also the purpose of the moms coming out and in a way kind of protecting the protesters? Is that they're supposed to kind of just the mere symbolism of mothers doing this and locking arms, that they're supposed to alleviate a lot of that violent tension?
I would think so. I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to be violent when there's moms around.
It's very hard to be.
And maybe that's why that's kind of gotten so much exposure online.
So, I think it's a good thing. But on the other side of that, I've also heard some pushback from the Black Lives Matter movement, from the black community, that we're trying to turn this into a white moms protest.
Okay.
Right? That we're giving all this credit to the white moms when it's actually the black moms who have suffered all of this injustice, who have lost sons.
And they were the ones who originally started protesting?
They're the ones that have driven these protests, and now they feel like basically the whole movement, in a sense, is being co-opted by a white narrative.
Where else have we seen that, Paula?
Well, you and I would know about that as trans women, right? I remember, in fact, that was really during the early stages of my own transition, when we had people like Laverne Cox and Janet Mock. Yeah. That was in 2013, 2014. We had Laverne Cox on the cover of Time magazine, right? Black women have always been the leaders of major social change, right?
Yes, true.
That was true of the Stonewall riots, which I think you're familiar with now.
I am now, yes.
Marsha Johnson. So yeah,
but I mean, it is unfortunate.
Well.
It is unfortunate that we're not giving credit where credit is due.
I think that's very true, right? And the photos I've seen, it was all white women. Okay, I didn't see.
Why does that happen? Is it just because once, like for example, in this situation, the white moms, once they started outnumbering, like the original black women protesting, is that when it, like, they kind of took it over, and did they turn it into something else?
I'm not certain about that. I mean, I kind of see two sides to that. I see I know white people that, first of all, don't want to be identified as racist, right? But they also do want to see significant social change, right? I mean, you could compare it to the Civil War days and the Underground Railroad and all the white women that were involved in trying to rescue black slaves, right? I think sometimes the black community overemphasizes it as a savior movement. I think there's a lot of white women that actually do want to try and create social change. But there's also a powerful political narrative, I guess, or social narrative that wants to affirm the dominance of whiteness.
Yes.
So I think there's two sides to that.
In a way,
And
because
what
the way,
motivates these moms to come out and do that, I think it's a legitimate interest.
well, in a way, because the lens that we naturally see things is usually from like very much a white lens,
Right.
and in a way, for a lot of people, for it to go mainstream, it kind of has to be filtered through that white lens, and I think that's why you see a lot of like these things all of a sudden being overtaken by, you know, white lives, white voices, and
I think that's true. That I think that their intention is legitimate, but the media immediately dramatizes that and makes it into a white issue.
Yeah, and it's like the left criticizing the left.
And the same thing we were saying earlier about the trans, the trans experience with Janet Mock and Laverne Cox and 2014. Then came less than a year later, Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love Janet Mock. You know, love Laverne Cox.
Fantastic.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of Caitlyn Jenner, to be honest. I completely respect her and her opinions, but you know, she's kind of a controversial character.
She's very much so. She's not been a very good representative of the transgender community. She has brought visibility to the issues, and I'll definitely give her credit for that. But look at the media. Look at the way she came out and the media that surrounded her.
It was very like, I'm here, like everybody celebrate me.
So they did 2020 did this interview with Bruce Jenner, kind of a hapless, kind of struggling Bruce Jenner, which is part of the trans story. I agree.
Well, but also we're sidetracking intensely, but one of the I wanted to ask you. So, did you watch her reality show, I Am Kate?
I never did. No, I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Well, everybody should at least watch part of that show because one of the things is, so Caitlyn Jenner comes out as trans, and then she films this reality series basically like at the beginning of her transition, and like basically like in that series, she's basically learning about trans issues from trans people, like. It's all like she's just like shocked. It's like all new information to her. So literally that kind of goes to show that we put somebody in a role that she basically was speaking on behalf of trans people when she didn't really know about very many trans issues. She was being, so if anything, the good thing that came out of that show was that it was spotlighting voices of like very
that's
very confident trans people, and that was a good thing from that show.
So those are the positive things I heard about the show. Yeah, that she had real trans women on there talking about trans issues.
Candace Kane was one of those voices. Yeah, and I love Candace Kane.
but it's interesting to realize. I never thought of that other side of it, is that Caitlyn Jenner didn't have any of that experience.
No,
right?
She didn't. She's literally learning how to be trans on that show.
Learning how to be trans on the show, yeah. I was really disappointed. And then, so I thought the interview with Bruce Jenner was realistic, right? Some of the struggles that trans women deal with living in male bodies. But then this idea of her coming out in this virgin white corset on the cover of Vanity Fair and being suddenly the most beautiful woman in the world was so sexist, right? And this is what we struggle against, right?
Yeah. Because that is the narrative that they want to impose on the trans community, is that it is all about looks, and trans women, to be honest, get way more exposure than trans men. Why is that? Is because trans women are more shockable because they have the potential to be very beautiful. And those are usually the trans people that you see in the media, is the ones who transition and who, quote unquote, trick the public. And there's that level of shock that the media likes. So
and the most of them, a lot of the most popular trans women in the media are, of course, models and actresses, right?
Yeah, but then it kind of brings us to another point of like you have to be very aware of the media, and like with Portland moms too, it's like we have to realize how is the media presenting this to us? Always question the media.
Yeah, and I think that's the main point that I focused on is the what motivates those moms to go out and participate in that protest, and how the media responds to it, right?
Yeah.
And then the third aspect of that discussion, of course, is how the Black Lives Matter movement responds to it, or Black mothers, how they respond to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why it's like a click-worthy topic, because you're bringing in the protests, and you're bringing in motherhood, and then the topic of race on top of that.
Yes.
So
could you have a more complicated discussion?
Yes.
That's the point of this show,
yeah,
right?
That's why we love talking about these issues.
That's why we love talking about these issues, because they are complicated.
And there's always intersectional elements to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about it. And we need more trans voices, right?
Absolutely. That's the main message here.
So, and just the same as we need more Black voices. And the media is continuing to try and keep that out of the discussion.
They're testing us.
I think that's a good place to end on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, please like and subscribe the video down below. My name is Dani May Austin. You can find me on Instagram, Dani, D-A-N-I, May like the month, and Austin like Austin, Texas. And you, Paula?
Paula Overby, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm not sure when this will come out, but make sure you vote.
That's why they need to subscribe, so that they can find out when it's uploaded.
That's right.
You should get a notification, so be sure to ring the bell too.
And keep fighting. Nope,
Yeah.
we can't say that. That's
That's problematic. You're canceled.
that's somebody else's line.
Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.